Hey everybody, here I am. I'm back twice in 1 week. um, I couldn't let this day go without just popping on to share some of my thoughts from today. And, you know, God give me strength and Spirit give me strength to go through this video and keep my thoughts cohesive and to remain in a neutral place. And the reason why I say that is because right out of the gate this morning, when I went in to check my social media, as I usually do, it was just a cacophony of, negativity is, I guess, one way you could say it. I guess I was just in a place of disbelief. I don't know why I didn't expect to experience the surge of emotion I experienced, on Facebook in particular. But I guess first I'll say, well done, full moon in Aries, because full illumination of that um, unleashed war spirit was out to be seen, and by everyone, um, including some that I consider pretty high vibrational people. Um, I guess it just put me in a place of wanting to reflect and to share what was coming in my channel. Now, I will say since Tuesday of this week, when I believe Saturn took a more prominent position inside of the planets, moving towards this full moon in Aries, I did actually start to get a little bit more clear. And I really started receiving a lot of downloads, a lot of messages. There were a lot of ahas, a lot of things being illuminated. I mean, that's what the full moon does. And almost to the point that there was like a cacophony of voices inside of my head, and trying to organize all of the thoughts that were trying to come in at the same time was a bit challenging, and trying to, sort through the information that I felt would be most useful for myself, or, in this circumstance, to communicate to anybody else. But, the shadow was certainly fully revealed this week. And with Aries, first of all, Mars in retrograde. So, the warrior planet, not here to balance the impulsiveness and depth of erratic emotions, the kind of, think before you speak element has been completely removed. And it's almost like all of us have been reduced to a childlike version of ourselves, where, the shadow lives. It's, when we're young like that, and we're experimenting on both sides, as we're learning the way that the world works around us, around rules and limitations and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, as we're being taught to access our compassion and our empathy for others. It's all ego, and it's all about me. I mean, that's what kids are about, right? I mean, it's the root chakra is in full effect up until about age 8. And so it's just pure ego, pure survival skills. I mean, that's really what it's all about. And that's what Mars, I mean, and we're in that energy of the me, the Aries energy. And so it's all about what I know and I think and I feel. And I don't care, how that makes you feel, or what your truth is. It's just about me expressing, my thoughts and my emotions, and without really thinking about the fallout of that, or the consequences of that. Anybody who watched the debate got to see that firsthand. It was like, I saw that meme that was going around that basically put both of them on like child bodies. And it was very funny because it was so very true. And I feel like we've all kind of gone there. We've all been reduced to this. And I wanted to try to create this message in a way that didn't come from a place of judgment, um, that certainly didn't get, political as far as one side of the party line or the other. Um, I think I wanted to come at this more from a place of awareness, as we're in a very, very important time of revelation for self. I mean, that's what the full moon is all about, revelation and illumination. And for us being able to see triggers and old patterns that are coming to the surface to be released, to help bring us more peace, bring us into center with our soul. And the center of the soul is, most people believe, is very connected to the heart, the proverbial heart, the heart chakra, our connection with spirit and source, this space that we hold to connect with one another, where forgiveness lives, and compassion and empathy and unconditional love. And of course, in our human existence, we have the contrast to those emotions as well. And hence we have the light side of life and we have the shadow side of life. And so this dichotomy can be looked at in lots of different ways. I mean, we have the more spiritual route of God and the devil. We have light and dark. We have illuminated and we have shadow. There's lots of ways to look at this. But the bottom line is, it's all within us. Each of us has the power to make a choice at any given moment of what direction we're going to go in. And depending on how visible and active our chakras are and our shadow is, will depend on, what vibration we dip into. And I think that the emotion that I really wanted to talk about was hatred. And the reason being is because with the president and the first lady being diagnosed with COVID, and this message going out, into the masses, I'm not going to get into whether it's true or if it's not. None of that matters. What matters is the response that it provoked from so many people. That was shocking to me. I mean, a lot of people, like I said, that I consider high vibrational people, saying terrible things, that, basically wishing death, on him or his family, or, lots of comments about karma, things like that. And I had to detach from it, because isn't that what this is about? It's about these attachments that we've created to these people or these things that have provoked us to go into an emotional place that is honestly not where humanity should be going, and certainly doesn't vibrate well with our souls. So I think I wanted to talk more about that, about the awareness of that, awareness of, especially if you are a spiritually led person and say that you are, to wish harm on another human being is just not okay. First of all, and not really part of the walking the walk. And I get it. We're all human and we all get triggered and we all go into places sometimes that maybe we're not proud of. But I think that we've reached a place on our planet at this point where we have to take responsibility for ourselves. It's no longer about you being triggered by someone, some figurehead that we've assigned power to. You have given your power away to that person too, regardless of whether you voted for them or not. And it's clear as day that you've given your power away, because you're allowing yourself to go into this place of hate, and the vibrations in the body that this creates is really unhealthy. It's generated by the liver and or the gallbladder, and so it instantly disrupts your power center and your solar plexus. And by saying, well, he did this, or they did this, or that event made me feel this thing. It was an emotion that already existed inside of you, and something about that person, place, or thing provoked a response that was already inside your body. You feel a feeling when it gets provoked by something, and then you get a choice on how you are going to utilize that emotional energy and what you're going to do with it. Are you going to still say, well, he's the reason I feel that way, or she's the reason I feel that way, or that thing happened and that's the reason I feel that way? Okay, but if you're putting the responsibility on someone else, then you don't have the power to do anything about it. So here's this thing that you don't want to give power to. In fact, you want to take power away from it, but your emotions are reassigning the power right back onto it. Regardless of whether you support it or not, you have attached yourself to that person, place, or thing, and created a vibration in the body that, for all intents and purposes, is only going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt the person. It's going to hurt you, and it's going to hurt your soul. And eventually, feelings of hatred and then spewing them out leaves a vibration of shame or guilt behind that, especially if it's not a vibration that you resonate with. If you're not a person who holds hate in their heart, and yet you're throwing these daggers of hate, that's going to do very bad things to you as a person. And this is what karma is. A lot of people are like, oh, it's karma come to call. Well, guess what? You just sent out your own. And now it's going to boomerang back. And it's going to boomerang back inside of your own body and inside of your own emotions. It's like throwing a boomerang that's made of knives, and now it's coming back at you. Or a boomerang that's made of venom or poison, and now it's coming back at you. So, I think that my message is more about just awareness of where you are putting your energy right now, when there really honestly isn't a lot to give. I mean, that's one of the main themes of the Mars retrograde, is depending on where it's showing up in your chart, you are being depleted in that area of your chart. Your energy is being pulled away. And if you're a cardinal sign, forget it. Then it's your physical energy too. You're in full fatigue, your willpower, your ambition, your motivation, all of it. It's like just getting out of bed in the morning is like this huge feat of achievement. So it takes so much more energy to summon that negativity, to summon that hate up and out of the body, and then to dismiss it like, well, I mean, it's a fine reaction to, this person because they're a horrible person. I don't care how horrible they are. It's still your choice. The power is in your hands unless you continue to assign it to the person, place, or thing that's outside of you. Then those things will control you forever, and they will continue to create these negative emotions inside of your body, because the tuning forks are all sitting in there waiting for someone to come along and strike it. The only person that has power to make a change in your life is you. And yes, we have these structures that have been put in place where we assign power to these figureheads. But inside of your own life, how you choose to deal with these situations is your power. And being an energy healer who deals with emotional trauma and emotional frequency inside of the body, dealing with thought forms attached to emotion that then turns into physical disease, and people come to see me and sit in these chairs, and then I'm trying to peel back the layers of the onion to figure out where the trauma took place in their body and why they're experiencing these emotions, and why these triggers exist, and why they're so reactive instead of being able to own their emotional intelligence and respond as an emotionally intelligent person. So hatred is something that I often find either trapped inside the solar plexus, taking their power away, because now someone or something is living rent free inside of that space in the body, sucking up the energy, because these negative emotions take so much out of us and bring our overall vibration down. And you want to talk about solar plexus. This is where all the important stuff is. Our liver is there, our gallbladder is there, our pancreas is there, our small intestine is there, our stomach is there, our spleen is there, our kidneys, our adrenals. I mean, I could go on and on. And so you're clogging up the system in a major way and creating a real energy drain on some of the most important organs in the body. The other place that I find it is in the throat. And the reason being is because we can have this feeling provoked, and then without acknowledging it and trying to figure out where it's coming from in order to express it in a healthy way, we just push it back and we swallow it down. It's like holding poison in your mouth or swallowing poison. And then it just sits in there and vibrates this terrible vibration. And so it affects the thyroid, it affects the voice box, it affects the lymph glands. It can affect your dental work, your tongue, all of these things, the tonsils. So, and then if we think about the connection of the solar plexus to the head, then we've got all of those links too, because the liver is connected to the eyes, and the ability for the liver to clean out the bacteria in the gut is connected to our sinuses. Like, so now we're not able to hear, we're not able to see properly. I mean, that's part of what all of this is about, isn't it? What are you not willing to look at? What are you not willing to see? What are you not willing to hear? And I think that a lot of us are in a position right now where we are so polarized that we're not even willing to hear what the other person has to say, or we're not willing to see a different perspective. And what's really interesting is that most of, there are people that I know that have very open perspectives that are still saying these awful things. And so I think it's time for all of us to really look at ourselves and decide, what kind of human being do I want to be? Do I want to allow myself to be provoked like this? Or would I like to make a different choice? And we are in the devil's playground right now. When it comes to the darkness, it is all out there to be seen. I mean, go talk to your astrologer right now and find out what's happening in your chart, because I can tell you, just between Mars, Saturn, and Pluto, and then I think Jupiter's coming out to play soon. I mean, there's some crazy stuff happening in the sky right now. Really crazy. So I would say, if you haven't had an appointment with your astrologer in a while, or you've never had one, now would be a really interesting time to do so. You want to talk about enlightenment and illumination as to what's going on for you inside of your chart with the connection of the sky. Oh my gosh. It is just, I mean, I was looking at my chart this morning, trying to see how everything was connected up and what I've been experiencing over, the last couple of weeks. And I was just like, oh my God, this is just, I mean, like a puzzle waiting to, be put together. But, we are in a place of what I will call extremely condensed yang energy in an extreme. This is the masculine energy. It's heat. It's the head. I almost think of it as like a black hole. Like this extreme condensed energy is like a star imploding on itself, right? And creating this black hole that then like sucks everything into it, as it gets stretched out and imploded into itself. And I feel like that's what's happening right now. Like, we are in this black hole that's being created by the illumination of the extreme place that humanity has been in for so many years. And the yang is the masculine. Okay. So we're talking about, and for those who run in the spiritual circles, you've probably been hearing this for a while, the awakening, the birth, the rebirth of the divine feminine back onto our planet. This divine feminine energy that is helping the earth ascend and to bring balance back to the wrongly distributed power, especially in a misogynistic way. And that the old patriarchy, the structures that were built inside of that energy, and the wrongdoings that happened there, the misuse of power for generations. We're talking about generations, that all of this is coming to light now, and that we can't clear anything we don't see. And so the illumination of all of these things is extremely important. But then when we're in the middle of it, someone reached out to me the other day, one of my clients reached out the other day and said, any suggestions for what I should do for the full moon? And the image that came into my head was of a hurricane, and that swirling chaos of energy. And then right in the center of the eye of the storm, where this eerie calm exists as the chaos rages around it. And I said, if you could set any intention for the full moon, it's to ask for this, the release of this, so you can stand in the center and you can observe the chaos that's moving around you and stay in a place of calm and peace, emotional intelligence, and being able to respond in a neutral way. So you are not victim to being pulled in one way or another. Because I'm seeing spiritual leaders now, people I've followed for years, going into such an extreme of where they feel the light is, that they're creating fear for spiritual people that are following them. And I feel like that's a misuse of power. That's a very irresponsible thing to do. And, yes, you may decide to say, well, somebody's got to say these things. Well, yes, somebody can say these things, but there's always a choice on how you're going to deliver this message to the people who are waiting and listening to hear, what do I do? Waiting for the light. And you're just bringing more fear when you say you're a spiritual leader. So, it goes both ways, that you can't completely disconnect from the shadow because it's part of us. It's part of who we are. But what you can release is the attachment to it. You can release the shame. You can release the guilt. You can release the hatred. You can release those things, the attachment to those things that are inside of the shadow, inside of the darkness, and instead merge it with the love and merge it with the light. The two are the same. They're the two sides of the same coin. So we can never live one without the other. Then we're just going into an extreme of the other thing, which is not healthy either. And so, what's the opposite of a black hole? What is it, a nebula, or like the exploded star, which is beautiful, right? But isn't it just a collection of terribly poisonous gases? Even though it's really beautiful. Maybe I might just be making that up. But, the whole idea is that we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention to where we are landing inside of ourselves. And, I wanted to get on this morning and do this message right out of the gate. And then the voice in my head said, Jenny, you are doing exactly what you are about to get on and talk to people about. You are attaching to this. You're attaching to this emotional response. And it was correct. It triggered me. It triggered me in a major way. It really did. I think sadness was my biggest response. Disappointment was a big response. And that's what happens when we put expectations on people, right? Or things. If they don't live up to what our perfect expectation is, then we're disappointed. And then we blame it on them when we're the ones that created the expectation, So again, the other message that I did this week, I talked about attachment. Once you place attachment on something, there's significance around that thing. And then, the the warrior part of us wants to charge full speed into that significance. And that's all fine and good. But, you know, for those of you who want to throw karma around, I think that we need to remember what karma really is. Karma is just a response, a mirrored energy. It has no labels. Karma doesn't say this is good or this is bad. Karma just is the response to what you sent out. So this is the infinity sign, right? Round and round we go. And so you get to decide what you're going to throw out into the universe at any given person in any given moment. But just have the expectation that eventually it's going to find its way back to you. Don't know what it's going to look like, but the bottom line is, who are the person that you are trying to be? Where are you holding space in this world? Are you saying that you're holding space in the middle? Are you saying you're holding space for the highest good of all things? Think about where your thoughts are going. Think about where your words are going. The words that you are saying, especially the ones you're saying out loud. And, you know, I get it. We're in a really volatile political climate, maybe one of the worst we've ever seen. Which, don't you think then it becomes even more important for us to unify? And certainly not wishing ill on another human being or their family is not holding space in the middle. My feeling is regardless of whether you like a person or not, it's not your job to judge them. Source will take care of that at some point. Our job is, at this point, to try to dig our humanity out of these places that is creating the worst divide we've ever seen. It's like, instead of going out and fighting hate with love, they're just fighting hate with hate, which just creates more hate, and then creates more guilt, and then creates more shame, which then needs to be expressed, which usually comes through anger and acting out. And those are some of the lowest vibrations that a human can experience in their body. And if you maintain that space for too long, then it gets trapped in your body. And then if it stays trapped in your body for too long, then it starts causing problems inside your body. And then you have to come and see me so I can take it out of your body. But I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say. This isn't a political statement. You know, this isn't about the official you want to elect. That's not what this is about. This is about you and your thoughts and your actions, and what are you doing to contribute to the unification of this planet. And stop doing he did, or he said that, and blah, blah, blah. No, it's no more of that. Think about how many theories are out there about how everything that we interact with in our world is just a reflection of something inside of us. And the reason why we have such a violent response to it is because it lives inside of us and we don't like it. And so when it's outside of us, we attack it because we don't want it to be inside of us. The more you point the fingers outside of yourself, the less likely you are to be able to increase the emotional intelligence of yourself and the things that you have going on to make you a better person. And then if you are healing and you are becoming a better person, guess what happens to the environment that's around you? It creates a ripple effect that goes out into the world. And I'm not saying that we can't have human moments where we fall back. It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. But I can't not use today as an example of just stop and think. Stop and think about your thoughts, and stop and think about how they're being verbalized, you know, how they're being used. And cancel, cancel, delete, delete. Cancel, cancel, delete, delete. That's not what I meant to say. That's not what I meant to put out into the universe. Breathe and start over. Honestly, it's for your own health, because the only person that you are really hurting by doing this is yourself. And therefore, your relationships, your environment will continue to reflect these things back at you. So I think that in this full moon of Aries, that's all about me and all about the illumination of me, I think there's no better time than to take a really good, hard look at you and what you are doing to be your best self. And with Saturn in the picture, that's the planet of karma and limitations. So that right up against a full moon, there's a lot of gifts that are visible right now for our growth. So many are visible to be worked with, to be healed, to learn to love those dark parts of self, knowing that they made you who you are today. And we certainly don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So these are my full moon blessings to you. Awareness coming from a double Aries. Who knows well, you know, the Aries warrior spirit, it's all about me first, act first, think later, you know, all of those things I know very well. And so I've been very deep inside of my head coming into this full moon, because I knew that it had to be chocked full of little gems for me to dig through and sort through and look at and see what was coming up. And I'm not saying that I'm a better person than anybody else, but I'm desperately trying to hold on to whatever balance I can find right now. Whatever neutral ground is visible, I'm clamoring to get to it, because I just want peace. I just want peace in my body. I want peace in my mind. And detoxifying your life sometimes can be hard, because sometimes it means challenging beliefs that have been around for a really long time, challenging truths that were basically spoon-fed to you from the beginning. You've never known it to be anything else. Sometimes it means removing people from your life. Sometimes it means losing a job. But ultimately trusting that if you are showing up as your best self, that the universe is going to show up to meet you there and support you in even the towers falling. You know, it's about picking yourself back up and cleaning off that foundation to build something new now that the old one has fallen down. And America is in a place right now, especially where we're getting ready to have an opportunity to potentially rebuild. We certainly are not going to get there with division. And no one person is going to do that. It's going to be all of us paying attention to where we are and what we're doing and what we're offering to our neighbor at any given moment. So as we move towards the next new moon, continuing to ask for these revelations of self. Where are you placing blame? Turning it back around and looking at, how does this apply to me? Where is my karma inside of this? What am I being asked to clear? Where am I being asked to show up in forgiveness and compassion and love? Because ultimately that's what the unity consciousness is built from. So some of what I've said today might land in not so comfortable of a way, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. The people that need to be in those extreme places, you need to be there. I'm not going to this is not coming from a place of wanting to judge anybody. It's something that I perceived this morning, had this rise up inside of me, and then had all of these messages dropping in. And I was like, I have to do something with this. And so I did. And my hope is always that my words come through in a way that lands for the highest good of all things, always. And so I hope that it falls for you in that space, or perhaps even just creates a crack where a seed can be planted. I'm not saying that my perspective is the only one. I mean, our existence is made up of billions of truths. I mean, because each person creates their reality through their truths. And so even when we have people in our lives that see things in a similar way, they certainly haven't lived our lives or lived our experience. And so the truths are a little different. And so each of us has our own truth. And I'm not here to tell you that your truth is wrong. It makes you who you are. But what I am asking you to do is to just ask yourself really good questions. And sometimes they're hard questions. And if you truly are striving to be the best version of yourself, sometimes that means letting go of old truth structures to make space for new ones. And so my hope is not to preach at you, but potentially to offer a perspective that might help. So with that, I'm wishing you a wonderful first weekend of October. And we are still in the energy of that full moon. So get your release list ready and do a little meditating time. All my best.